Today we're talking about one of the most terrible and horrible pieces of technology, a dreadful weapon in Cobra Command's arsenal that can touch the deepest, darkest corners of the mind. A weapon that can probe a subject's innermost mind, drawing out long-kept secrets and memories forgotten to time. Human intelligence forcibly extracted. Other settings control the very electrical patterns in the mind that create thought and function, to manipulate the mind and body at will. Living zombies, Manchurian candidates, human bioweapons, insidious and devious, are all out against the will assault on their enemies. There are so many ways for Cobra Command to use the brainwave scanner, and they've done just that, ripping apart the minds of G.I. Joe, of their very own forces, and even Cobra Commander's own son. Let's talk about Cobra scientists and their mind control technology, the brainwave scanner. Dr. Archibald Monev was born in Brooklyn, New York, per his file card. From a young age, it was evident that Archie was incredibly smart, though he blended the lines between genius and insane. In fact, as he got older and became a brilliant scientist, his methods and ethics were called into question to the point where he was shunned by the scientific community and banned from contracting with the United States government. And this says a lot, given that the Special Operations Directorate at the Central Intelligence Agency oversaw the MK-Ultra program, which went heavily into biotoxins, LSD, and mind control experiments. CIA Director Alan Dulles himself dubbed the arms race with the USSR around mind control brain warfare. He called Soviet modalities brain perversion techniques that were effective yet abhorrent and nefarious. Other techniques that aren't as physically invasive are with PSYOPs, psychological warfare, a term coined by the Department of Defense all the way back in 1941 in the early days of World War II. They were witnessing Axis powers use propaganda and other means to influence hearts and minds on a massive scale. The 7th PSYOP Battalion of the 4th PSYOP Group operated in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. 4th POJ also operated in Panama during Operation Just Cause and Promote Liberty, and he used this in the Middle East during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and it continued all the way up to today. So for Dr. Venom to be banned from working with USG means he really went off the rails, like violating Geneva Convention and international human rights laws. So while the brainwave scanner technology may seem exotic and science fiction, it's all too real and all too frightening. In Real American Hero issue 258, we learn that as a child, Venom was in Bern, Austria, where his evil dad made him throw a puppy off of a bridge. His dad forced him to go to school at a reconstructive surgery institute there, studying under Dr. Huntkinder. He then killed his dad by pushing him off the bridge where he lost his puppy. And then he went to the Rhode Island Institute of Technology, and we learn his name in Hama continuity is Claude Matthias Venom. When the dean got word of his misdeeds, he killed the dean, burned his house down, and then linked up with the future Cobra Commander. Venom, aka Monev, was determined to continue his work, so he relocated to a remote laboratory deep in the jungle where he experimented on indigenous flora and fauna along with human test subjects from nearby tribes and villages. He extracted exotic toxins from deadly botanical samples and developed mind control with them. At some point, the dangerous minds of Cobra Command learned of his experimentation and recruited him to the Cobra Terror Organization, where he reversed his last name and went from Dr. Monev to Dr. Venom. As Dr. Venom, he invented a terrible device that could scan, read, and manipulate brainwaves. And one of his earliest experiments with this was to overlay the brain patterns of a rabid wolf onto the brain of a mouse. Meanwhile, another nutjob with a doctorate was working his way to the Cobra organization too. This was an accomplished orthodontist who wanted to better the experience for his patients and push dentistry forward, and so he began experimenting with electronic brainwave stimulation, hoping to neutralize pain sensors in the body. He used his technology on himself, and that changed him into an egotistical, hateful, deceitful, vain, and evil madman. He now sought to not just relieve pain, but to completely control human minds, and he used that power for world domination. His quickest means to that end was to align himself with Cobra Commander. With this organization, the dentist started calling himself the Interrogator, then Dr. Brainwave, before settling on Dr. Mindbender as his name. Dr. Mindbender set about perfecting the brainwave scanner that Dr. Venom invented, infusing his research on top of it. Apparently, his psychosis is evident in the fact that he eats pizza with a fork and knife, but I'll leave that part up for debate in the comments. In an interview with the Joe Battlelines website, Larry Hama says that he thought the BWS, brainwave scanner, was more of a one-time item, not to be used again. So when it kept coming back, Hama began referring to it as his Deus Ex Machine, a play on Deus Ex Machina. In the second issue of A Real American Hero, a G.I. Joe team was in the Arctic, where Russian scientists were working on long-range ULF transmitters set to a biological frequency that could affect human brainwaves. But a mercenary named Quinn had broken in and stole the frequency modulator that made it all run. Their device had leaked and the fear waves affected the team of Russian researchers, leading to their demise. We'd learn much later that Cobra Commander had bought the blueprints from Quinn, not the Soviets, and gave them to Dr. Venom to use and modify, presumably for his mind-altering machines, including the brainwave scanner and the terrordromes, like the ones he sold to Fruzenland. In the A Real American Hero comic book series, both the BWS and Dr. Venom first appeared in issue 10. This is the issue where the G.I. Joe team was tasked with neutralizing a suspected Cobra stronghold in Midtown Manhattan. Snake Eyes, Scarlet, and Zap made a rooftop assault as part of the infiltration team and ended up being captured by Cobra and flown to the town of Springfield. They were imprisoned in Springfield and gassed with a psychotropic nerve agent, and they suffered horrifying, nightmarish hallucinations of monsters like killer bats and gargoyles. Meanwhile, Snake Eyes was subjected to Dr. Venom's scanner while Cobra Commander and the Baroness looked on. Venom explained that the electrodes attached to Snake Eyes' head were recording his brainwaves and their reaction to the images they were flashing on a screen, which would then record the signature and build a library that would be large enough that they could then reverse the process and effectively read his thoughts by translating the brainwave signals against the stored library. He hoped to use this to find the location of G.I. Joe headquarters for Cobra Command. All while Scarlet was seeing deadly snakes and spiders on her face, Zap was a turtle cooking in the sun, and young Billy was seeing evil clowns. Venom's scanner was not perfected yet, and Snake Eyes' mind was too disciplined, too strong to submit, and so he consciously jammed the readout by focusing on his pivotal accident that scarred and silenced him. He got a lot of intel from Snake Eyes, but when the commando pretended to be dead, they unhooked him and he escaped, smashing Dr. Venom in the face with a rifle and then rendezvousing with the others outside and heading back to base. Later, Snake Eyes and Quinn tracked Dr. Venom to a shack on a dock near the old Brooklyn Navy Yard. Venom had used Scarface as a sort of Trojan horse to get a plague toxin inside the Joe's base under the motor pool at Fort Wadsworth, essentially to smoke them out. At this dockside laboratory, he'd also developed the snake armor, which both Snake Eyes and Quinn were forced to wear as Cobra's forces amassed outside. This snake armor was another version of his mind control. Complete subjugation of the will of the user was a feature of the battle armor. They then tested it by assaulting the recently discovered Joe headquarters, but Snake Eyes shot Quinn free from the armor and Quinn attacked Dr. Venom. Venom shot Quinn, and when Quinn fell, an unpinned grenade rolled out of his hand and exploded at the feet of Dr. Venom, killing him instantly. When Billy was on trial, a few issues later, for trying to assassinate his own father, Cobra Commander, Zartan suggested putting Billy in the brainwave scanner to extract the answers from the kid's mind. Like Snake Eyes, Billy was able to resist the power of the scanner, instead displaying images of Cobra Commander's pre-Cobra days, and because of that, old Hoodie said, hey, let's go ahead and stop what we're doing right now. In issue 49, Cobra Commander was pleased with Dr. Mindbender's ability to meld the characteristics and genetic material of 10 despots and zealots from world history into one mind, and so, as he first told the Crimson Twins, that Venom paved the way and he was granting Dr. Mindbender access all of Dr. Venom's equipment, including the scanner. He used the scanner to bring Serpentor to life. Dr. Mindbender even used the presumed dead Storm Shadow and then himself to give Serpentor his own knowledge and allegiances. When Cobra Commander was selling a terrordrome to the country of Sierra Gordo, Snake Eyes was inserted in-country via Slipstream's Conquest X-30 and disguised as Flint. He was again subjected to the brainwave scanner, which had now been upgraded and remodeled by Dr. Mindbender. But eventually, Dr. Mindbender pulled Flint's face off and realized it was Snake Eyes, the reason why Flint was so adept at resisting his device. The Joes then managed to break in and rescue Flint. The brainwave scanner, well, assigned for it at least, made the cover of issue 90, where we see Roadpig dragging Clutch and rock and roll down a corridor for a mind control session. Cobra Command had been restructured, and so now the Dreadnoks and the Baroness were overseeing things in Broca Beach. They happened to have a prison, complete with a brainwave scanner hidden inside a bowling alley. Zorana told the Baroness they were going to use it this time to instead implant information into two Joes' heads. So they flew a helicopter into a symbolic representation of Clutch's brain, and they removed memories and replaced them with fake ones, like that he was on a Cobra submarine not in Broca Beach, and that thoughts of the scanner itself would elicit a pain response. From the Cobra consulate in New York City, one that resembles the windowless, brutalist style of the AT&T Long Lines building, also known as NSA Field Office, codenamed Titan Point, Baroness informed G.I. Joe of where their two MIA soldiers were. A rescue ensued, and then they went on a nice leave. But during that time, Zorana was injured and in medical in Joe's custody and ended up in a delirious state, and she spilled all of the intel, revealing their plans and the mind control. In issue 100, as Cobra took control of the town of Springfield, they had some smaller, more mobile brainwave scanners flown in, and the entire town was subjected to its mind control. Meanwhile, at the Pit 2 in Utah, Rock and Roll and Clutch gave these two teen girls a tour, which is when Zarwana decided to activate their mind control right when they were in the armory. They pulled weapons on the kids, but a team of Joes got there to save them. According to Psych Out, their brains were overloaded with conflicting data, and they passed out. Later, it was the Baroness herself who was strapped into the brainwave scanner. This model was housed on the Arco Valdez freight vessel, now underway somewhere in the North Atlantic. It now had the capability of creating a graphic representation of memories in a three-dimensional matrix. Destro was able to negotiate for her release, though, just in time. Cobra Commander later revealed to Aleph, Night Creeper leader, that he'd scrambled the Baroness's subconscious and implanted commands he could activate later to lure Destro into another scanner to zombify him. But now they were at the castle in Transcarpathia, which also happened to have a scanner right in the basement. Rather convenient. Cobra Commander had a condor fly over the castle and send a signal down. The Manchuria trigger word was transmitted, and the Baroness was activated. Her scheme, though, was interrupted by red ninjas and soon both Slice and Dice. Destro wanted to prove his love to Anastasia, so he willingly sat in the scanner. He knew love canceled the brainwashing, and that worked. She freed him and they escaped the Red Ninjas, helped by G.I. Joe's Ninja Force too. When the updated Firefly was revealed in issue 126, he gassed Ninja Force and revealed he'd stolen his own brainwave scanner and planned to subject them all to it to make his own zombie ninja army. And he used them to take over Cobra Island, and it worked for a moment, but that plan pretty quickly fell apart. Later still, in Transcarpathia, a Cyber Viper was subjecting Billy to the tortures of the scanner. They then threw him in the dungeon where the Baroness was being held. His mind was under Cobra Commander's control, and he ratted out the Baroness for trying to escape, meaning she'd get her own jolt in the machine. And Billy also said he'd tell them all the Joe's secrets that he knew. Except that was a fake out, and he managed to waste one of Cobra's ICBMs. Back in the scanner he went though, while a beat up Baroness laughed at the commander from the floor. Then Storm Shadow found himself stuck in the scanner. He was gonna make them all enslaved and subservient, only to him. Snake Eyes hit Cobra Commander in the face with a flechette round of white phosphorus, so Mindbender freed the trio from the scanner to fight Snake Eyes, and then they all escaped, of course. In issue 155.5, we learned that Billy was still being given BWS sessions. Dr. Venom's essence, it's revealed, was still embedded in the machine, even after numerous upgrades and updates. He was the ghost in the machine, still showing his face from time to time. The commander said his face in the machine was a fitting tribute and much cheaper than a statue. Then the Baroness said her influence was wearing off and she feared the scanner. Dr. Mindbender also told Destro that there was a Trojan horse still in the computer and he wanted Mars Industries to help to debug the brainwave scanner and reprogram Billy, all while keeping it from Cobra Commander. That image of Venom was much more insidious than it seemed at first. Later, influenced by the Venom virus, both Baroness and Billy battled before settling into a warm embrace with each other, all while Destro and Mindbender looked on. So after that is when Baroness, Billy, and Dr. Mindbender, protected by a swarm of bats, got Snake Eyes into the scanner at Silent Castle, all while the Joes fought to get to him. Cobra Commander made them continue the session, despite the strain Snake Eyes' massive blood loss would cause on his heart. Baroness said those sessions were excruciating, but Billy found them invigorating. Scarlet brought Storm Shadow back to G.I. Joe and reassured them that his own scanner influence had also worn off, and he wanted to help them recover Snake Eyes. When the treatment was concluded and they released his bonds, thinking the session too debilitating for anybody to do anything, except this was Snake Eyes. Not only did it make it through, but he went on the offensive, fighting through the bats guarding his body, but that was just to get to his new master, Cobra Commander. In 163, it's revealed that Billy was liking the scanner sessions because he was being influenced by Dr. Venom. Then Snake Eyes infiltrated the Wax Museum on Broca Beach and took control of the shared consciousness sector of the brainwave scanner. Billy panicked, knowing that if he confronted Dr. Venom, it would spell disaster. Snake Eyes and Stormy fought, and Storm Shadow had to use an Arashikage technique to sort of reboot Snake Eyes' mind, clearing it of influence. And then suddenly Billy was hanging off a building in Midtown Manhattan from a helicopter that had crashed into it. Now he was fully controlled by Dr. Venom. Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow were able to defeat Tommy Venom, and they snuck him into the brainwave scanner on Broca Beach to rid him of Dr. Venom. The ghost of Quinn, as an arcane ferryman, floated in on ethereal mists and water to take Dr. Venom and pull him back into the void. And before they left, they sabotaged the scanner. A couple issues later, Dr. Venom appeared to Dr. Mindbender on a screen, now back stuck inside the machine and desperately looking for help. In issue 192, even as Mindbender said they no longer had the machine, a maintenance worker at the recently sold casino on Broca Beach found an old drive with Dr. Venom's data on it and turned it over. Their next plot involved capturing Senator Wendy Ling Torres and subjecting her to the brainwave scanner located inside of a van. And this would be a long game that would play out many issues later. Cobra Commander told them to destroy the device, erasing any link to them and Senator Torres. We then learned that Mindbender had subjected one of the new young recruits named Don Moreno to the horrors of the scanner. Cobra Commander, surprised, okayed it still, and the treatments continued, with Baroness and Zorana looking on, though they were secretly wanting it to stop. So when the doctor left, the two women worked to jettison the indoctrination programs from Don's mind. Baroness went to delete it and accidentally infused Don's mind with Snake Eyes' memories and mind that Venom had stored deep within the machine. And as Snake Eyes' mind took hold more and more, Don became an unstoppable killing machine, hell-bent on revenge. They then hooked Senator Torres and the Collins parents up to the scanner in Springfield, and that's when Dawn made a frontal assault on the building, where she was also working with Heather Collins to get down there to the scanner, free them, and hopefully help Dawn at the same time. Zartan, of all people, along with Granny and her Arashikage, converged on the building, hoping to also help Dawn. They had to escape Cobra forces amassing outside, but before they left, they shoved Dr. Mindbender in the scanner and turned it on. Dr. Venom was now implanted in Dr. Mindbender's head. As they fought their way past legions of bats and blue ninjas, Mindbender Venom donned a new outfit and a new look, finding the other one garish and clown-like. Venom also revealed his latest plan: implant the Dawn Snake Eyes memories into a blue ninja robot. It was positively Frankensteinian, Baroness said as she looked on in horror. Though Venom had Elant assets in place and heard them, Baroness told a hooded Coco that she had a team of Techno and Cyber Vipers looking for a backdoor to the scanner to find a way to erase Dr. Venom from Dr. Mindbender's mind. But Mindbender continued his work, and he used parts that he sent to himself from Revant Robotics, allowing him to build XR-23. Dr. Venom then went nuts and captured Cobra Commander after embedding his essence inside a giant battle mech. Baroness attacked it with airstrikes from a Night Raven and a pair of Rattlers, while the Joe team worked to take it down from the ground. That was Bomb Strike, Ambush, Sightline, and a kid named Milo who hit it with missiles and incendiary thermite grenades, and they then wiped Venom from the system. During the Snake Hunt event, Throwdown was captured since Cobra thought him to be Snake Eyes and put him in the upgraded Brainwave scanner at the Springfield Community Center, kicking off an all-hands-on-deck rescue operation. The backlash from that got them in front of the Joe's Senate Oversight Committee, an opportune time for Mindbender to finally activate his sleeper agent, Senator Wendy, but didn't work. Later still, Dr. Mindbender was with Laura 343 on Cobra Island, where they were building a new casino, and deep in the casino was a new and upgraded Brainwave scanner. They also brought in the original scanner as a backup device. So what Mindbender did was he actually combined the two scanners with a DNA regeneration tube, and with that was able to bring a version of Serpentor back to life, this time using DNA from Genghis Khan, Sun Tzu, Shaka Zulu, and Marshal Zurkov. Except it worked too well and kicked off another civil war inside Cobra, which now included zombified legions of troopers and vipers. The Joes had the bright idea of resurrecting the original Serpentor and turning him against Serpentor Khan. The Brainwave scanner and Dr. Venom also appeared in Transformers vs. G.I. Joe, where he was using the scanner but hooking it up to Cybertronian technology for research. Tom says he was influenced by Kirby's Demon, Tales from the Crypt, and Cthulhu stories. In G.I. Joe Frontline continuity, Billy had hooked the Brainwave scanner up to the main Cobra Central computer system, something that the Joes targeted with an orbital space laser, and it was causing people to act weird. Billy was escaping through Castle's storm drains, and Baroness just basically sat in her room all day now. In the Devil's Due continuity, the Crimson Twins had a smaller desktop version of the Brainwave scanner, something they revealed to the Dreadnoks as Zartan and Cobra Commander monitored them, though this one, they said, only works on former patients of the old model. In G.I. Joe Sierra Muerte issue 1, Cobra Commander, Baroness, and Major Blood were at an abandoned Dr. Venom lab on the southwest coast of Sierra Muerte, looking to pick up some guns, nukes, and mass mind control devices that the Doc had built with a mysterious partner. And so the Brainwave scanner continues to be a through line through many G.I. Joe stories, the connective tissue between many a character and plot, and it will continue to show up as we head into the future. But where? We'll have to wait and see, which means that's a wrap on this one for now. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.